Chapter 7:15. Don't call me your relative. I don't have such a vile creature like you. Tell me, what are you trying to achieve by loitering outside Saint Nazir? Gu Mingming's face was cold and her gaze was calm. She did not purposely emit any aura. But Snake's thousand-year arrogance had already seeped into Gu Mingming's blood. That insufferably arrogant aura of a natural ruler exuded from within. Even though it was small, it could not be ignored. Cole's gaze was ignited by that little face. No matter how many times he looked, he just wanted to possess her even more. She smelled so good. He could almost imagine how wonderful it would be if she were to enjoy herself on his body. Suddenly, a chilly murderous aura swept over. Although it was only for a moment, it successfully burst the dirty bubble in Cole's mind. Cole looked in the direction of the murderous aura and met Elvis's deep blue eyes. He smiled provocatively with slight disdain. Cole was still kneeling on the ground. He looked up at Gu Mingming and smiled. I am worried that little Master Qishuan's body cannot withstand the exhaustion and cannot last until you gather the 5 treasures to exchange for the antidote. I was afraid that you would not be able to find me when you needed me, so I came to you myself. The spoon in Gu Mingming's hand paused for a moment, while Leah took the initiative to stretch his neck and put the spoon in his mouth, finishing the meat with loud noises. The royal consort leaned on Gu Mingming's knees like a drunkard and glanced sideways at Cole, saying, Yeah, our little brat has indeed lost a lot of weight recently. Do you have any ideas? What are the conditions? Why don't you tell me honestly, and not waste the air in our house? Cole ignored Leah, as if he only acknowledged Gu Mingming's promises. For her son, Gu Mingming had to speak to him no matter how unwilling she was. Tell me, what is the solution? What conditions? Cole stood up with his back straight like a European noble prince. He did not give off the aura of a stray beast at all. He was still as elegant as ever. His smile was like the spring breeze. But Gu Mingming would no longer be bewitched by his smile. She believed that he was a good person. I can wake little Master Qishuan up on the condition that he must stay by my side until you gather the 5 treasures and hand them over to me. Then I will return him to you. Cole said, You want me to hand my son over to a despicable stray beast to raise? Gu Mingming frowned, looking displeased. But Cole did not seem to mind at all. He only said, Let the stray beasts rear him, or let him starve to death. You can take your time to consider. I am not in a hurry. Gu Mingming clenched her fists tightly as 10,000 alpacas galloped around in her heart. She couldn't understand what Cole was up to this time. What good could come of handing Qishuan over to him? Wouldn't he turn her Xianer into a pervert? But if she didn't give it to him, she didn't even know where the 5 treasures were. Qishuan's condition obviously wouldn't last until she gathered all the items to exchange for the antidote. Gu Mingming was in a dilemma, but Cole was not in a hurry. He just stared at Gu Mingming with a faint smile. Being able to make you worry about me is also a matter of honor. Gu Mingming heaved a deep sigh and turned to look at Oriton. Go to Sandy's place and bring Qishuan over. Oriton didn't reply. He just walked away quietly and went to Sandy's house to fetch Qishuan. Chapter 7:16. Gu Mingming laughed coldly and said, Ha, Lord Cole is really skilled and bold. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you and snatch your son back after Qishuan wakes up? Cole looked as if he was listening to Gu Mingming's words, as if they were words of love. He replied gently and lovingly, The antidote I gave little Master Cole is only temporary. He has to be fed again after a certain period of time. If I cut off the antidote in the middle, then the suppressed poison in his body will spread at a much faster rate. By then, even if the beast deity comes personally, he will not be able to save the situation. For little Master Cole, my beloved master will not bear for me to die, right? Gu Mingming was so angry that her teeth were itching, but she could not do anything to Cole. Gritting her teeth, Gu Mingming said, Yes, I really can't bear to part with you, Lord Cole. A strange gentleness bloomed on Cole's face. He smiled coquettishly and said, To be able to hear my beloved master say that Cole can die without regrets. Gu Mingming closed her eyes, not wanting to see Cole for another second. Leah used his large tail to gently stroke Gu Mingming's shoulder. Then, he inched his handsome face closer to Gu Mingming and kissed her eyes. Then he smiled and said, Wash your eyes. With that, he gently pulled Gu Mingming's little hand into his own arms from Elvis's arms. He placed her little hand on his chest, and then used his finger to pull open the half-opened hide on Elvis. Holding Gu Mingming's little face that was flushed after being stunned for half a second, he gently breathed into her left ear and asked, "How is it? Did you wash it clean enough?" Gu Mingming felt that her nose was about to bleed. She grabbed the hide and covered Elvis up again. Her little hands trembled as she said, "Don't wash your dirty linen in public. Don't wash your dirty linen in public." Elvis watched as she threw herself from Lee's arms and covered him with his clothes. He could not help but find it funny and also wanted to tease her. With one hand around her waist and the other holding her chin, he squinted his blue eyes and said in a deep and husky voice, "Last night, you didn't say that." Elvis's expression changed as he looked at her. "What did you say?" The fox's seductive fragrance would cause a person to secrete a lot of adrenaline, numbing a part of the brain and increasing the desire of the other part. However, this was different from drinking. There was no memory loss. She clearly remembered the 2 days of entanglement. With Elvis mentioning it in front of everyone, Gu Mingming could no longer maintain her cold and aloof image. She crawled onto Elvis's chest and covered his mouth with both hands. "Don't speak." Elvis's eyes darkened, and he looked at Gu Mingming with an indescribable gaze. Gu Mingming was taken aback for a moment before she realized where her knee was. She bounced away and snuggled back into Lee's arms. Her face was like a ripe tomato as she buried it into Lee's shoulder. She felt like she was too ashamed to face anyone. Elvis and Leah exchanged glances, and their hearts loosened a little. Luckily, they had found a way to stir up Gu Mingming's emotions. She seemed to be more sensitive than before when it came to matters of the heart. And all this, in Cole's eyes, ignited an even stronger jealousy. When Oriton brought Qixian over, Sandy, Bode, Colin, and the 3 little ones also followed. Chapter 717. Gu Mingming took Qixian from Sandy's arms and hugged him for a long time before kissing his little head. Her gaze dimmed as she said, "I don't care who he is as long as he can keep my son alive." Sandy didn't say anything else and just tugged at Gu Mingming's hand and stroked Qixian's head. This child had become very skinny recently. If he still didn't eat, he might really not survive. Gu Mingming carried the child and personally handed him over to Cole. Her height only reached Cole's chest, and she had to look up to speak to him. "If anything happens to my son, I will definitely make you regret being born into this world." Cole carried Qixian in his arms with practiced ease. He tilted his head and chuckled. His eyes were filled with indulgence as he promised in a coaxing tone, "Don't worry. I will treat him like my own son and love him dearly." Gu Mingming knew that Cole was taking advantage of her in a roundabout way, but she had no choice. She could only laugh coldly. "Your own son? Ha, Elvis would never poison his own son." Cole leaned over and whispered into Gu Mingming's ear, "That's because you didn't want to leave him. Otherwise, in order to keep you here, he would be even more ruthless than me." Gu Mingming placed her hand on Cole's shoulder and exerted a little force. A cracking sound could be heard. It was the sound of bones breaking. Gu Mingming looked up with a radiant smile. "Don't compare yourself to my partners. I won't be happy if I hear it." Cole's forehead was filled with beads of sweat, but the smile on his face deepened. "I will remember this. I am a special existence that is different from the other partners to master. I will not compare myself to your other partners anymore." Gu Mingming didn't want to waste any more time with Cole. She turned around and returned to Elvis's arms. Closing her eyes, she said, "Oriton, send the guest off." Oriton stood expressionlessly in front of Cole. He didn't say a word and just stared coldly at Cole. Actually, there was still a difference in levels. But when facing stray beasts, even if there was a huge difference in levels, there would only be anger and fighting spirit. There would never be any cowardice or fear. Cole had no intention of causing trouble. He just lowered his head at Gu Mingming before carrying Qixian away. He had encircled a piece of land outside of Saint Nazir's territory, which was equivalent to taking over someone else's territory. This was actually a very serious matter, but the other party knew that they could not afford to offend Cole, so they could only swallow this fly and allow themselves to feel disgusted, deceiving themselves and pretending not to know about this matter. Cole dug a cave that was square in shape. It looked like the layout of the stone houses in Solder. Although it was simple, it was still exquisite. Cole placed a pill into Qishuan's mouth and placed him on his knees. He gently stroked his back and muttered to himself, "You have to live well. That way, if she wants to see you, she will have no choice but to come and find me. Ha! If you can really connect me with her, I will teach you how to become a king who looks down on the world. How about it? In the future, the world that she and I share will also be inherited by you. You will be the eldest and youngest son, and I will also give you the theocracy. How about that, my son?" Chapter 7:18. After Cole left, Gu Mengmeng was a little listless. Sandy gave Bode a look, and Bode said he wanted to bring the three little ones out to practice hunting. Kanwu and his brothers had been heavily protected by Sandy ever since they parted ways with Burke, and did not have the chance to go out to play. Now that they were granted special treatment, they were naturally happy. They circled around Gu Mengmeng and wagged their tails, looking at her expectantly. "Mummy, can we go?" Gu Mengmeng knew that her sons clearly wanted to go, but even so, they still knew to ask for her opinion before heading out. They were probably afraid that she would be worried. Her son's thoughtfulness warmed Gu Mengmeng's heart. She rubbed their little heads. "I'll let Uncle Oriton go with you, all right?" Males had a natural instinct to worship the strong. Just like how Oriton worshipped Elvis, the three little ones also worshipped Oriton's legends. Hearing that their idols could go with them, they were naturally overjoyed. Gu Mengmeng looked at Oriton. "Since you have to hunt, help me take care of my sons." Oriton stayed silent for a moment. "If I bring them along, I can't guarantee the quality of the food." Gu Mengmeng's mouth twitched. Her sons were being despised, right? "Uncle Oriton, don't worry. We promise not to cause trouble. We will just obediently follow by your side and learn. We can protect ourselves while you hunt." The one who spoke was Kanwu. This made Gu Mengmeng very surprised. After all, this bun always had the demeanor of a gang's young master, like, "Hey, I'm giving face to my mother," when he spoke to Elvis. Why did he look so adorable when he spoke to Oriton? "Little bun, I didn't expect you to have two faces." Oriton looked at Kanwu's eyes in confusion. Then he looked at Elvis's eyes in realization. Being gazed at by a pair of eyes that were so similar to his idols made one's vanity feel satisfied. All right. His face was expressionless, but he was obviously in a good mood. Oriton turned around and left. The three little ones followed behind him like tails. Sandy instructed Bode to take good care of the children and not let anything happen to them. Bode was willing to be ordered around by his female. However, if one of the three little ones was their child, that would be even better. But since Sandy was especially worried about the three wolf pups, he would definitely protect them with his life. After the children left, Gu Mengmeng was like a deflated balloon as she leaned into Elvis's arms. Sandy sat in front of her and held her little hand. He frowned and his eyes were filled with heartache. That Cole is obviously up to no good. Now that he has Qishan in his hands, all the more you cannot touch him. Do you have any countermeasures? Gu Mengmeng shook her head. I thought about it before. The kiss of the ocean can cleanse and contain everything. Perhaps it can be used to neutralize the poison in Qishuan's body. But Qishan has yet to transform. Given his abilities, he cannot withstand the immense power of the kiss of the ocean. If I forcefully inject it, I am afraid that Qishan will explode. So the only way is to give all 5 items to Cole in exchange for the antidote. Chapter 7:19. Do you have any clues? Where are the things he wants? Sandy asked. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and sighed. If I had any clues, I wouldn't have returned to Saint Nazaire and would have gone to look for them directly. The main thing is, I don't know where to look. Sandy thought for a while and continued. Why don't I get someone to send them to you? Gu Mengmeng looked at Sandy with a face full of confusion. Sandy said, to find 1 or 2 specific things in such a huge beast world is like searching for a needle in a haystack. Even if everyone in Saint Nazaire helps you search, the chances of success are very low. Why don't you just spread the news that whoever can help you find these few things, you will provide him with a year's worth of food. Your family's food is so delicious. Everyone will definitely be willing to help you search. Gu Mingming chuckled and thought to herself, a year's worth of food? This kind of reward can probably only mobilize you in Oriton. But spreading the news was still feasible. With a great reward, there would definitely be brave men. This logic should be unchanging since ancient times. But what did she have that could attract everyone? Gu Mingming fell into deep thought, not knowing what to do. Leah waved his tail and walked to Gu Mingming's side. He squeezed himself between Gu Mingming and Sandy and sat down. Then he said, you can use your status as the messenger of the beast deity to promise that you will grant a wish to the person who presents the 5 treasures. Elvis chuckled and said, are you opening the back door to welcome a new family member? Leah stretched out a finger and waved it lightly, saying, although most people will ask Gu Mingming for mating, but don't forget, in order to mate, you must first challenge her partner. Tiske, guess if there is a single 3rd-level beast that can defeat you? Elvis laughed coldly and said, what if the one presenting the treasures is an extremely handsome man? What if Xiaoming really likes him? Leah waved his large tail and said seductively and affectionately, in terms of beauty, there are not many who can beat me. If one really appears, in order to protect the most handsome position in Gu Mingming's eyes, I don't mind being a ruthless person. Cough. Gu Mingming choked and coughed twice. Elvis patted her back gently, only to see Gu Mingming, who was coughing to the point of tears, looking at Leah with a look of exasperation, saying, this is not the way to use destroying a flower. Leah shrugged and said nonchalantly, anyway, with the 2 of us guarding, I want to see who can enter this door. Gu Mingming chuckled, so the 2 of you want me to cheat a marriage? What was the difference between that and a badger game? It's wrong to play with other people's feelings. Leah smacked his lips. How can it be a sham marriage? You gave them a chance to woo you. If your partner can't beat you, it's because he's too weak. How can you be blamed? Gu Mingming tapped Lee's brow and said, twisted logic. Leah smiled and leaned back to cooperate with Gu Mingming's poke. Then, he bounced back and pecked Gu Mingming's lips lightly. Only then did he sit back down in satisfaction. He smiled at Gu Mingming's blushing face because of his little actions. Gu Mingming cleared her throat and said, then, what if they make a request that I can't fulfill? Something like bringing the dead back to life. Chapter 720. The next morning, all the members of the Eagle Owl tribe from Saint Nazaire set off. Birds had their own way of communicating, so they could spread the news faster and had a wider range. The only one who knew the way, Ian, went to the Snake King Valley to pass on Gu Mingming's words and order the snake beasts to spread the news of Gu Mingming's treasure hunt. At the same time, the messenger of the beast deity, Gu Mingming, obtained Snake's tier of the beast deity, and was also the saintess of the Snake King Valley, was also announced to the world. Gu Mingming's actions were a clear indication of her attitude. The Snake King Valley was no longer a forbidden place to live in seclusion, but a place under the protection of her, the messenger of the beast deity. Anyone who dared to lay their hands on the Snake King Valley would have to first get past Wabi, who was guarding the valley, and then ask her, the messenger of the beast deity, for permission. As a result, the Snake King Valley, which had already been rumored to be miraculous, once again became a hot topic. As such, within 10 days, the news of the bird tribe cooperating with the snake tribe for Gu Mingming's treasure hunt had spread throughout the entire beast world. Everyone had desires. Orcs were the same. Gu Mingming felt more at ease when the bustling search for treasures started outside. She went to see Qi Xian, who had indeed woken up. Cole, this pervert, treated Qi Xian surprisingly well. Not only did he provide for him to eat and drink, he even brought him to hunt and taught him skills. He did not spoil or mistreat him. If not for the fact that they were of different species, people would really suspect if Cole was Qi Xuan's biological father. But there was one thing. If Gu Mingming came to see Qi Xian alone, Cole would welcome her with all kinds of warmth and consideration. But if someone else accompanied him, regardless of gender, Cole would hide Qi Xian away. ensuring that Gu Mingming would not be able to find him. And for the next few days, Gu Mingming would not be able to see Qi again. After repeating this a few times, Gu Mingming finally understood Cole's intentions. "You're here." Cole smiled gently, as if he was a wife waiting for him to return from grocery shopping. Even though Cole had been behaving like a stray beast ever since he raised Qi, Gu Mingming became even more guarded against him. No matter how he expressed his goodwill, Gu Mingming would never say a word to him. Bypassing Cole, Gu Mingming directly entered the cave that Cole had dug out. Qi was sprawled on the side of the bed for an afternoon nap. Sensing someone approaching, he immediately raised his head and pricked up his ears to look at the entrance of the cave warily. Recognizing that it was his mother, he relaxed and whimpered a few times. Only when Gu Mingming sat by the bed did he crawl into her arms. Qi had yet to evolve, and was the only one among the four brothers who was still in beast form. After Cole's training, his body had become much stronger. His fur was glowing, and his eyes were bright and full of expression. One look, and one could tell that he was living a good life. But even so, Gu Mingming still felt that she owed her son. She hugged Qi and kissed him. "Your brothers miss you very much. Once I gather the ransom money, I will bring you back to reunite with your family." Howl, her son was her biological son. But Gu Mingming still did not understand what he was saying. Cole brought in a plate of fruits from outside and placed it by Gu Mingming's hand. He did not mind Gu Mingming's cold treatment at all. "The dry season is coming. Have you found a water reserve?" Gu Mingming completely treated Cole like air. She did not eat the food he gave her, and did not reply to his questions. She only focused on hugging and kissing her son. Aside from the topic, let me report, our monthly votes in February were ranked 39th in the Xiaoxiang overall rankings. This is a very good result. Thank you, my babies, for your support. March had just started, and my babies had already voted for more than 10 monthly votes. They were indeed true fans. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 721. There is an underground well in Sauter. Why don't you stay there for a while? Even though he didn't get a response, Cole continued to talk to Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming hugged Qi in her arms and kissed his little face. "Good son, continue sleeping. Mummy will leave first. I will come back to see you tomorrow." With that, Gu Mingming placed Qi back on the bed and patted his back gently. She stood up and left without so much as a glance at Cole. Cole's lips curled up as he stared at Gu Mingming's back. He placed his large hand on Qishuan's back. "Look, your mother is still throwing a tantrum with us. Looks like I have to work harder to coax her." Back in the cave, Elvis had already boiled water for Gu Mingming to bathe. Just like how Cole did not allow others to visit Qi in the cave, Elvis and Leah also could not tolerate Cole's scent on Gu Mingming. So every time they visited Qi in Cole's cave, they had to bathe immediately after returning. Otherwise, their faces would turn as black as stormy clouds. After a comfortable bath, Elvis placed Gu Mingming on the bed. Just as he was about to doze off, a familiar feeling suddenly dispelled his drowsiness. Gu Mingming sat up after putting on her snake skin. She quickly walked out of the cave and saw a familiar serpent that looked like *T slithering towards her. Hiss hiss hiss. The large head of a train spat out its forked tongue, and a sharp attack headed straight for Gu Mingming's face. Without another word, Gu Mingming raised her hand and slapped Wabi to the ground. She raised her brows. "How many times do I have to tell you? I hate snakes. I hate *T. I hate snakes that look like *T. Can't you just appear in front of me like a human? Why must you make me feel like I have scratched *T every time I hit you? It's so disgusting, isn't it?" Cole did a somersault and transformed back into his human form. His body had shrunk quite a bit, and there was a bruise on his chin. It was obvious that Gu Mingming had hit him too hard just now and disfigured him. Tisk. Wabi looked at Gu Mingming with disdain. "Do you think I want to? The outside of the Snake King Valley is too dry, so if I don't use my beast form, I won't be able to walk fast. If I use my 2 legs to walk over, I would become a dried snake." Gu Mingming sat backwards and Elvis caught her firmly. His large black tail wrapped around her slender waist, and his chest was behind her back. He picked up a piece of leather to wipe Gu Mingming's little hand that had just patted the shit. Not interrupting. The weather outside is not suitable for you and you still came out? Gu Mingming asked. Wabi said awkwardly. The days after this will get drier and drier. Then it will be winter and I will hibernate. If I don't fight you now, I'll have to wait until next year. The corners of Gu Mingming's mouth twitched as she smiled. So you came all the way here just to look for a beating? Wabi blushed. Gu Mingming was right. Stubbornly refusing to admit it, he said. Of course not. Oh. Gu Mingming looked at Wabi with a please start your performance expression. Then other than an itch for a beating, what else do you want from me? Wabi stretched out 2 fingers. 2 things. Gu Mingming nodded and made a please gesture. Yes, speak. Chapter 722. Gu Mingming's heart skipped a beat. Those fruits. Was it the tree that Snake had kicked over? He had asked the snake beast to pluck all the fruits from the tree for her. Unfortunately, she could not finish them, so he had asked someone to bury them all. He had just wanted to give it a try, and did not expect it to really germinate. Wabi felt rather awkward, and did not look at Gu Mingming. He pretended to be nonchalant. He said you like trees, especially that precious one. Now that it has sprouted, I am here to tell you. After all, if you are happy, he will also be happy. Gu Mingming smiled. Yeah, I know. Thank you, Wabi. Wabi lifted his head. Of course you should thank me for my painstaking efforts to deliver the message. But you did not just say it, right? Gu Mingming was taken aback. Oh, you have already thought of thanking me before coming to me. Tell me, what do I have here that Lord Wabi covets? Wabi's expression was rather stiff. He said carefully, if the beast deity is your father, can you ask him? How is that person doing now? All right. The people of the beast world believed in returning to the embrace of the beast deity after death. She said her father was the beast deity, so Gu Mingming smiled. All right, I will try. With that, Gu Mingming stood up and turned to enter the cave. Wabi did not expect Gu Mingming to agree so readily. He was stunned for a moment, thinking that Gu Mingming was going to open the altar to communicate with the beast deity. But why did she turn and enter the cave? Where are you going? Gu Mingming did not even turn back. Sleep. Wabi did not understand. He thought for a moment. Perhaps opening the altar to worship the heavens was a physical activity, and she needed to replenish her sleep? He had never opened an altar before, so he did not know. Hence, the awe-inspiring Lord Wabi squatted in the shade outside Gu Mingming's cave like an abandoned dog. He held a tree branch and drew circles on the ground, waiting for her to wake up. Rubbing his chin, Wabi smiled foolishly. So painful. It was about the same strength as him. On the other side, Gu Mingming called Leah and Elvis over. I am going to find my father to talk about life. I don't know how long I will be sleeping. If you two are busy, you don't have to guard me. With a deity like Wabi squatting at the door, any ordinary person would be shivering just by passing by. Elvis placed Gu Mingming on the prepared beast's skin and covered her with a blanket. He said gently and dotingly, don't worry about these, sleep well. Leah and I will take care of the clan matters. Gu Mingming nodded, then slowly closed her eyes. Other than bidding farewell to Snake, Gu Mingming had never taken the initiative to look for the beast deity. Firstly, she was angry that the beast deity refused to help her save her son, and secondly, she blamed Snakel's death on him. But as time passed, Gu Mingming gradually got over it. The beast deity was such a high and mighty cheat system. It was never wrong to build a good relationship with it. Hence, Gu Mingming slowly entered her dreams with the mentality of gifting a gift to her leader. The white in the fog made it hard for one to know where they were. Gu Mingming smiled and said, my biological father is indeed my biological father. You let me in knowing that I wanted to find you. Chapter 723. Gu Mingming felt that since this mighty beast deity liked this kind of father-daughter cosplay character setting, then so be it. She could just treat it as though she lacked a father's hobby since young. Since father knows that I am coming back, he must know why I am back. Gu Mingming tilted her head and smiled. The beast deity maintained a benevolent expression. He rubbed his chin and asked, "Do you want to watch television together?" Gu Mingming raised her eyebrows, looking like a rebellious girl. The beast deity was still smiling, and did not get angry. He added lightly, "The domineering senior who transmigrated through time and space, starring Snake." Gu Mingming's expression changed instantly, faster than the changing of faces in Sichuan opera. She smiled sweetly and said, "All right." The beast deity and Gu Mingming sat cross-legged on the ground. With a wave of his hand, the white fog in front of them dispersed, revealing a window that looked a little like a home theater. Gu Mingming did not think too much about whether this was high-tech or metaphysics. She just focused on searching for Snake's figure in the image, an ancient castle in Europe. With the accumulation of time, the birth of a child brought hope to the family. But this child was very strange. He did not cry from birth. His parents clearly had blue eyes, but he was born with a pair of emerald green pupils. He was clearly an infant in swaddling clothes, but he had an aura that made people tremble in fear. The grandfather stared at the child for a long time. He nodded and said in relief, "The future prosperity of our family depends on this child." That one sentence established this child's status in the family. The 6-year-old child sat in front of the computer. His short fingers typed rapidly on the keyboard. At 2:59 p.m., he hit the enter key. A listed company thousands of miles away was attacked without any warning. It no longer had the ability to retaliate. The child jumped down from the computer and looked at his shocked father. He was clearly looking up at him, but his aura overpowered his father. His little face was expressionless as he said in a commanding tone, "I have completed the acquisition you wanted. So, change my name to Snake." Without waiting for his father's reply, he had already left with his hands behind his back. Looking at his son's small back and listening to the longest sentence his son had ever said to him, the child's father was stunned for a long time before he slowly replied, "Okay." At the age of 8, Snake had already become the master of the family. He rarely interfered with trivial matters, and no one in the family dared to go against his wishes once he opened his mouth. Because countless facts had proven that he was always right. Whether it was danger or opportunity, his senses were always the sharpest, and his judgment was always the most accurate. Because of him, an old family that had fallen to the point where only its reputation was left had suddenly risen within a few years, and was comparable to its heyday in the past. Therefore, the kidnappers had their eyes on this 8-year-old child. A car accident. The driver died on the spot, and Snake's whereabouts were unknown. His family anxiously mobilized various forces to search for him, but to no avail. When the police were forced to the brink of digging 3 feet into the ground, Snake, dressed in a neat suit and a pair of clean leather shoes, walked back home in a dignified manner with a steady rhythm. No one knew what happened that day, and no one knew where the robbers went. They only heard that the abandoned factory, where Snakel was imprisoned, was so infested with snakes that even professional snake catchers did not dare to step foot there. Digression. Here the long-awaited Snake's digression was released. Snake's digression would be released in this manner. All the digression related to Snake would be named as the extremely vulgar, the domineering senior, who transmigrated from past life to present life falls in love with me. Those who liked Snake could just read it directly, and those who didn't could skip it when they saw the chapter name. Chapter 724. Every weekend, the elegant prince would fly to a certain city in China on a private plane. At a fixed time, he would go to a fixed amusement park to watch a very childish little theater for children that had nothing to do with elegance. At night, he would go to a local fast food restaurant to have a meal that would definitely be blacklisted. Then, he would stand quietly under the streetlights and watch the last employee leave the restaurant before taking a plane back to the castle. No one knew what kind of weird hobby he had. Anyway, most geniuses were not normal. When he was 17, he announced that he wanted to study in China. The entire family was in an uproar. A genius who already had a double master's degree from a world-class university was going to study in a random first-year major in a third-rate university in China? Why? Facing the strong opposition from his family, Snake only laughed coldly and said, "It's easy to let a family prosper, but it's even easier to destroy a family." The next day, Snake completed the registration for new students. Next year, there would be a person he had waited for 17 years to enter this university. In these 17 years, he had never tampered with anything in her life, because he could not afford to miss her due to a slight deviation in his track. So, he only looked at her silently and participated in her memory like a passerby. Today, he decided to tamper with the first thing in her life. There was a position that he was not willing to give up to anyone else. A club application was slapped on the president's table. The well-built fourth-year senior looked up at the exchange student, who was crowned the coolest school hunk because of his foreign appearance. With a smile, he helped him complete the registration procedures without saying a word. Don't ask why. Look at those crazy girls behind him. Did he need any other reason? Did he? No need. Snake's existence caused the previously unknown swimming club in S University to become one of the most popular clubs in the world. But Snake had a principle, which was to only participate in city-level swimming competitions. As long as it was not a competition in S City, he would not participate. No matter who tried to motivate him, he would not give face to anyone. Then there was a legend in S University. The coolest school hunk was good at everything except that he was a mute. From the first day of school, he had not spoken to anyone. The class bell, faculty bell, and school bell confessed to him, but he just brushed past them without even blinking. Until the second year, 2 months after the new students enrolled, at the edge of the school field, a girl in a school uniform was nervously holding a letter. There was a love sticker on the envelope. This was a common sight. She didn't need to guess to know that it was a love letter. "Senior, I like you." Gu Mingming handed over the love letter with both hands, then lowered her head, not daring to look into his eyes. Gu. Before the senior could reply, the love letter in Gu Mingming's hands was snatched away. A tall figure stood between him and Gu Mingming, his burly body blocking him completely. Gu Mingming raised her head and stared blankly at the person who snatched her love letter. Her clear eyes were filled with astonishment. His dark green eyes revealed a trace of malice and anger. His lips were clearly curled up, but it made people shudder. His voice was cold and emotionless, but it was filled with an irresistible tone. "Do you think it's appropriate for someone who already has a boyfriend to confess to someone else?" Out of topic. It appeared. Susu was so excited that she couldn't control herself. Chapter 725. Have a boyfriend who? Gu Mingming was dumbfounded and could not keep up. Snake took a step forward and bent down slightly. He looked into her clear eyes and said, "You." Gu Mingming instinctively took a step back and shook her head. "Senior, you have not agreed to my confession. I don't have a boyfriend." Gu Mingming took a small step back, and Snake took a big step forward. The distance between the two of them became so close that Gu Mingming could feel Snake's breath rushing towards her. "You do." The two light words were filled with endless ambiguity. Gu Mingming blinked her eyes and wanted to cry. When did this happen? Why didn't I know? She was forced to take a few steps back by Snake. She lost her footing and fell backwards. Snake quickly grabbed onto her waist and pulled her into his arms, allowing her to slam into his chest. Seeing how her nose was red from the impact, and how her eyes were watery from the pain, Snake felt the satisfaction from teasing her. He rubbed her little head in satisfaction and said, "I am now officially informing you that from this second onwards, I am your boyfriend. Do you understand now?" Gu Mingming looked at Snake, as if she was looking at a lunatic. She wanted to snatch back her confession letter. "That senior, you might have read too many romance novels, but I don't like you. Return the letter to me, return it to me." Gu Mingming's petite arms and legs did not have any advantage in front of Snake. Looking at how she was jumping around in his arms, Snake frowned and said, "The first love letter was not written to me. Are you sure?" Gu Mingming looked at Snake and Gu Mingming and said, "The first love letter was not written to me. Are you sure?" Gu Mingming suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. She was suddenly terrified. Wasn't he the one who suddenly appeared and spoiled her confession? Why was he so confident while she was like a red-necked apricot who was caught trying to climb the wall? Feeling guilty for no reason, Gu Mingming carefully retreated from Snake's arms. She smiled bitterly. That senior, you go ahead with your work. I won't disturb you anymore. Before she finished her sentence, Gu Mingming had already run off. What confession? Forget it. She had a feeling that her life was in danger. Looking at her fleeing back view, Snake was in an inexplicably good mood. He smiled and muttered to himself, "Yeah, you've grown up. The last time we met, I was so scared that I fainted." Turning back, Snake faced the guy who Gu Mingming had confessed to and was about to slip away. "Come here." That boy seemed to have been frozen in place. He turned his head around stiffly and stood in a proper military posture in front of Snakel. Snakel frowned. The person in front of him was not the swimming club Prince Charming Sr. that Gu Mingming had in mind. That fellow from the swimming club had already been tortured so badly by him that he had to transfer schools. "TSK, where did this eyesore come from? Which society are you from?" Snake asked. Basketball club," the boy answered. Snake nodded, thinking that perhaps his interference had caused Gu Mingming's interests to deviate, but it did not matter. He would do whatever she liked. Patting the boy's shoulder, he said, "Later, bring a letter of application to block a classroom 9 to find me." Yes. With that, the boy ran off as if he was escaping for his life. Snake turned around and walked towards block A classroom 9 as the bell rang. Chapter 726. As the fog started to spread, Gu Mingming smiled helplessly at the beast deity. "Yeah, no matter if Snake is a human or a snake, I am still as cowardly as ever in front of him." The beast deity was still smiling benevolently. He tilted his head at Gu Mingming. "Are you relieved to know that he is like this now?" Gu Mingming nodded. "I am relieved to see that he is living well. Even if he ends up falling in love with someone else, I will be satisfied as long as he is happy." The beast deity shook his head. "Don't you understand? Even if he goes to that world, Snake is still an orc by nature. Falling in love with someone means that he will never change. There has never been a change of heart." "That's true. How could 1,000 years of understanding be changed in just a few decades?" Gu Mingming smiled helplessly. "But I am so cowardly and Snake is so domineering. According to my character, I will definitely be frightened to death by him." The beast deity nodded in agreement. "So this the overbearing senior who transmigrated through the past and present lives falls in love with me should be a rather long television series. If you are interested, why don't we watch it together next time?" Gu Mingming smiled. "Are you a retired, lonely old man asking his children to visit him regularly? His reputation is to ask his children to come back for dinner. You are asking your daughter to come back to watch television series with you? And even a youth idol romance film." The beast deity chuckled and did not say a word. Gu Mingming paused. She looked up at the beast deity. "What I saw just now, was it all real? You did not use some illusion spell to fool me, right?" The beast deity nodded. "Deities cannot lie." Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief. She suddenly felt the burden on her shoulders lightened. Although they were not in the same time-space, it was great that Snake could be happy. Back then, he had said that he was the most powerful beast king. No matter which time-space he was in, he would always be the king of the world. At that time, she was still criticizing him for being an egomaniac. Now, it seemed that what he said was reasonable. "All right, I will leave now. There is still someone waiting for me at my door." The beast deity tugged at Gu Mingming's arm. Gu Mingming turned back to look at the beast deity, waiting for him to continue. The beast deity thought for a moment and said, "You really want to find those things for Cole?" Gu Mingming smiled and asked, "Why? Are you afraid that he will activate his beast king bloodline after obtaining the treasure and harm the common people?" The beast god hesitated, then nodded. Gu Mingming grinned. "That's easy. Give me Qishuan's antidote. Or tell me how to cure the poison in my son's body, and I won't find any treasures for Cole. If you need it, I can even kill him personally. Let's see if you want to eat sashimi or hot pot. I can make sure you're satisfied." The beast deity sighed and said helplessly, as if he was looking at his daughter who was acting shamelessly, "You know, I can't interfere with the matters of the beast world." Gu Mingming chuckled and asked, "If you don't let me find the 5 treasures for coal, does that not count as interference?" The beast deity seemed to have expected this question from Gu Mingming. He did not get angry and just replied calmly, "I'm just afraid that you don't know the effects of those 5 treasures and won't be able to turn a blind eye to it." Chapter 727. Gu Mingming turned to leave, but the beast deity sighed and said in a low voice, "No father can watch his own child perish together with others." After Gu Mingming woke up, she was in a good mood, and even felt that the sky had turned bluer. Stretching, she took the cup of water that Elvis handed over, and drank a mouthful to moisten her throat. Then she smiled gently and said, "Thank you." Elvis poked Gu Mingming's head with his finger and said, "Saying thank you to me?" Gu Mingming thought about it and agreed. Elvis had done so many things for her. Which one of them could be repaid with just a few simple words of thanks? She wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and kissed him on the cheek, then hung herself in Elvis's arms in an affectionate manner. Elvis enjoyed Gu Mingming's long-awaited intimacy very much. His Xiaoming was getting better day by day, although she was still different from before. At least when facing him and Leah, she was not much different from before. That was enough. As for her attitude towards others, whether she wanted to benefit the world or destroy it, he didn't care, as long as she was happy. "How long did I sleep for?" Gu Mingming asked. Elvis replied, 2 days and 1 night. "Where's Wabi? Still squatting at the entrance?" Elvis nodded and said, "Yeah, he hasn't moved at all." "Let's go and take a look." Elvis didn't say anything, and just carried Gu Mingming out of the cave. She had a good sleep, and her body was well rested, without any trivial matters to worry about, and knowing that Snake was indeed living a good life, although her situation was weak and awkward, and Snake's domineering way of chasing would only make her run faster and further. But wasn't it a good thing for Snake to create some small trouble like this for him? His life was too plain and boring. No one dared to defy his rule, and it became lonely after a long time. It was good to let her create some trouble for him in another space-time. Curling her lips, Gu Mingming suddenly reached out to sneak an attack on Wabi from behind. Wabi's reflexes were very sharp, and he dodged in a flash. This kind of pressure was very familiar. It was dangerous but not murderous, so Wabi knew from the start that it was Gu Mingming. But he never does such sneak attacks. How embarrassing. Wabi's face was full of disdain. Gu Mingming shrugged her shoulders and said nonchalantly, he said, "He is him and I am me. He asked me to live my life in the way I want. So I like sneak attacks. What do you think? Hit me if you dare." Wabi rolled up his sleeves and stood up. "Let's fight then. Who's afraid of who?" Gu Mingming pushed Elvis away and stepped forward. She opened her arms wide and said, "Come on, go ahead and fight. I don't fight back. But if he dies, you have to explain to the beast deity yourself." Actually, Wabi really wanted to fight with him, for the first time in a long time. But looking at Gu Mingming's fearless expression, he didn't dare to make a move. No matter how much strength she had in her body was simply too small and looked very fragile. In the past, he dared to fight with her because he knew he couldn't beat her. But now, she was clearly not fighting back or dodging. Wasn't she being shameless? What if he really broke her? How was he going to explain to Snake? Chapter 728. Wabi reached out to grab Gu Mingming's arm, but thinking of Snake's guarded and warning eyes, he finally opened his arms wide to block Gu Mingming's path. "You are not allowed to leave. You have to tell me, how is he?" Gu Mingming chuckled. "I thought you were not going to ask." Wabi glared at her. "I have waited here for you for 2 days and 1 night. How can I not ask?" Gu Mingming was not annoyed. She sat cross-legged on the ground. Elvis knew that Gu Mingming did not want to talk about Snake in front of him, so he turned back to the cave to tidy up the bed Gu Mingming had just slept on. Wabi sat beside Gu Mingming. After a moment of silence, he said, "I just want to know if he is doing well over there. Is there anyone to fight with him?" Gu Mengmeng looked up at the sunlight. He is doing very well. He is still the arrogant Snake Highness. He has a high status and is powerful. But there doesn't seem to be a Wabi training partner like you there. But no one dares to be presumptuous in front of him either. But don't worry, he is not lonely. Because over there is another me, accompanying him. Wabi was stunned. He looked at Gu Mengmeng. You can accompany him? Then can I do the same? Can you bring me to see him? I want to fight with him. Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing. She patted Wabi's shoulder and shook her head. I am just the messenger of the beast deity. I am not the beast deity himself. I don't have such great abilities. Wabi remained silent for a moment. Then, he looked up at Gu Mengmeng. What if I find the things you want? As a reward, can you help me beg the beast deity to let me accompany Snake? Gu Mengmeng thought for a while and nodded. I can try to help you, but I can't guarantee the results. Wabi nodded seriously. All right. Isn't it just the kiss of the ocean and love of the sky? I will find them for you. When the time comes, remember to fulfill your promise. Gu Mengmeng nodded, and Wabi left without looking back. After Wabi left, Elvis walked out of the cave and hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms. He came all the way here to seek a beating, and you just brushed him off like that? Gu Mengmeng leaned into Elvis's arms and said, the weather is too dry and he has been left here to dry for 2 days. His skin is about to crack. I can't bear to do it. Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's little face and did not say anything. The problem of water source, he and Leah could definitely solve it. I haven't visited Qi Xian for 2 days. He must be worried sick. I'm going to see my son, Gu Mengmeng said. Elvis did not object and only sent her to the border of Saint Nazir's territory. When Gu Mengmeng walked out of Cole's cave, she suddenly felt that something was wrong. She quickly walked into the cave and found that it was empty. Cole had disappeared. Qi Xian had also disappeared. All the daily necessities were gone. It was obvious that this was an abandoned cave. Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists tightly and glared into the distance. She gritted her teeth. Cole! Gu Mengmeng searched inside and out for a long time, but Cole did not leave any traces behind. When she returned to Saint Nazir helplessly, Leah and Elvis were already waiting for her in the cave. Elvis frowned when he saw that she did not look well. Chapter 729. After Gu Mengmeng explained the situation at Cole's side, Leah smiled and tapped Gu Mengmeng's little head. Don't worry, Cole only brought Qi Xian to a place with sufficient water. Although he is a stray beast now, he is used to living a luxurious life. It is impossible for him to endure hunger and thirst. Really? Gu Mengmeng was skeptical. Leah nodded his head in assurance. Based on his understanding of Cole, it was definitely true. Lee's words were always right. Thinking of this, Gu Mengmeng felt much better. Caressing Lee's face, Gu Mengmeng frowned. Why did you lose so much weight? I slept for 2 days, and your dark eye circles have already appeared. Lee's heart warmed when he heard that Gu Mengmeng was concerned about him. But he could not bear for her to worry. So he purposely exaggerated his emotions to show off his morbid flirtatiousness. Wrapping his large tail around Gu Mengmeng's arm, he also put on a cough cough cough. Come and show some concern for me look, he said in a slightly sorrowful tone. The original water source in the territory is not enough. I have been waiting for the next 2 days to find a new water source, but there is no progress at all. Look, my legs are so thin from running. I need Gu Mengmeng's massage to feel better. Seeing that he still had the mood to put on an act, Gu Mengmeng knew that although he was a little tired, he was definitely fine. So she gave him a push and snuggled back into Elvis's arms. Was it not enough in the previous years? Seeing that Gu Mengmeng did not buy it, Leah stopped fooling around. Straightening his expression, he said, in the previous years, there were only 3 females and over 100 males in the tribe. But this year, we have 19 females and over 300 males. So, Gu Mengmeng held her forehead. She had forgotten about the problem of the population increase. Gu Mengmeng remembered that Sandy had told her before that water was scarce during winter. Even females could only ensure basic drinking water. Bathing was out of the question for them. Males basically did not touch water anymore. They would just drink beast blood to replenish their water supply during hunting. It could be seen that Saint Nazir's water source was especially scarce during the dry season. Gu Mingming held her forehead and thought for a while, before asking, "Other than that stream and the lake that I transmigrated from, are there any other water sources that we have?" Elvis shook his head and said, "There's still water in that stream. Leah has already ordered all the males to hurry up and make wooden barrels to store the water. But there's a limit to how long the wooden barrels can store the water. In a few days, even if the water hasn't been drunk, it will all be gone. But right now there's no better way." The wooden barrel was made by cutting off a tree and then hollowing out the center. Although there were no gaps, and the entire barrel was one piece, the problem was that the wood itself had leakage problems, so it couldn't be used as a long-term storage tool. Gu Mingming thought for a moment, then stood up and said, "Let's go, accompany me out for a walk." Elvis and Leah did not hesitate. No problem was more important than Gu Mingming. So what if there was no water source? Even if they had to rob from other tribes, they would not let Gu Mingming go hungry. As for the life and death of others, what did it matter? Elvis carried Gu Mingming while Leah followed beside him. After walking out of Elvis's territory, Oratin and Ian followed behind. The basic equipment for a messenger of the beast deity was finally ready. Every year during the dry season, is there any place in our territory where the vegetation is not too affected by the drought? Gu Mingming asked. Lee's eyes lit up. He looked at Gu Mingming and said, "You mean?" Aside from the topic, the frequency of the author's words today was a little high. I was afraid that you guys would not be used to it, so I specially mentioned it. Today's update has ended. Today's update has ended. Today's update has ended. Chapter 730. Sauter never lacks water during the dry season. Isn't it because of that well? Gu Mingming continued Lee's sentence. Leah could not hide the smile on his face. How could I forget that you are the messenger of the beast deity? You can communicate with the beast deity and ask the beast deity to bestow us the eye of life. Gu Mingming rolled her eyes. She was already numb to how the previous messenger of the beast deity named everything in this world with such Chinibu names. Fire was fire. Why did it have to be called Flame Demon? Why did it have to be called the Eye of Life? Elvis's body stiffened. He looked at Gu Mingming and asked, "We can also have our own eyes of life?" It meant that they had an inexhaustible source of water. And the dry season was no longer a season that tested the limits of their lives. Gu Mingming sighed and held Elvis's face with both hands, looking straight into his eyes. She said, "I'm different from Wang Xiaoxin. I especially don't like those deliberately mystifying words. Let's be more normal. That thing is called a well, remember?" Elvis held Gu Mingming's little butt with one hand and hugged her, while the other hand caressed the back of her head. He brought her little face to his mouth and gave her a deep, lingering kiss. His blue eyes were filled with pride and pampering as he said, "You always surprise me. I don't even know how many more secrets you have." Gu Mingming's face turned red from the kiss, and she mischievously sang, "I have many secrets. I won't tell you, won't tell you, won't tell you." Elvis looked at Gu Mingming's happy expression and did not pursue the matter. They still had a lifetime to spend together and discover more of her little secrets. While Elvis and Gu Mingming were flirting with each other, Leah carefully recalled the geography of Saint Nazir and said, "There are 7 to 8 places in the territory of Saint Nazir where plants would grow densely even during the dry season. Do you want to take a look at the nearest one?" Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "Let's go to the lowest place to take a look first." Gu Mingming could not explain to Leah and the rest why she knew such a strange technique. You might not believe it, but how could a girl who grew up in the city know how to dig a well when she was an adult, constantly running around in various places of work? This is a mysterious question, but the answer is very unique. Gu Mingming had gotten this knowledge from romance novels. A certain omnipotent goddess of war transmigrated to an unknown era and brought her mother, who was suppressed by her concubines, and her brother, who had a weak body, to become rich and sleep with beautiful men. There was some mention of digging a well. Gu Mingming's only wish now was that the great author was not spouting nonsense. Leah brought Gu Mingming and Elvis to a place with dense vegetation. As it was already the start of the dry season, the surrounding plants had more or less started to show signs of their leaves turning yellow. Only this place was still full of life and was covered in green. Gu Mingming nodded, then looked around. She broke off a thicker branch and stood it upright. It was taller than her, about 1.8 meters in length. She placed the tree branch flat and spun on the ground, crushing all the vegetation in its path into grass and mud. Gu Mingming clapped her hands and said, "Go back and get someone to dig according to the circle I drew." "All right." Leah responded and carried Gu Mingming from Elvis's arms. He pressed one hand on her ear and pressed her face against his chest. This way, both of Gu Mingming's ears were blocked. Chapter 731. How blindly did the people of Saint Nazaire worship Gu Mingming? He could probably learn a thing or two from this well-digging activity. Almost all the males and females in the tribe were here, all of them looking curiously at the circle of grass and mud with a tree branch. The 18 females stood closest to the grass circle and stared at it. No one knew if they could see anything from it or not. The males stood by Elvis's side obediently, waiting for his orders. After the battle with the stray beasts and Gu Mingming's unexpected outburst, there were no longer any first-level orcs left in Saint Nazaire. Those who could stand here now were considered to have strong fighting abilities. Elvis instructed everyone to dig according to the circle drawn by Gu Mingming, without any explanation. With just this one order, the males all revealed their sharp claws and started working with their families as a unit. Actually, they did not have to dig very deep. About 3 to 4 meters would suffice. But there were no shovels or excavators, so they had to rely on their hands. So the difficulty was quite high. She ordered the males to do things, so as compensation, Gu Mingming naturally had to take care of the females. Luckily, these females were Gu Mingming's fans, so they pestered Gu Mingming for no other reason than to tell her stories. But this time, they did not want to listen to Yu Sijin's story. They wanted to listen to Snake's story. Gu Mingming's experience in the Snake King Valley had been spread like wildfire, but there was no fixed version. The more it was spread, the more outrageous it became, making everyone itch for it. It was a rare chance, so they naturally pestered Gu Mingming to listen to the real version. Gu Mingming could not resist everyone's enthusiasm, so she started telling the story from the second she opened her eyes in the Snake King Valley. How did she enter? She could not say, because she had promised Ian not to let others know that she had climbed on his back. When she talked about how Ellie wanted to kill her, all the females looked at Gu Mingming with reddened eyes, as if they were about to cry. They said angrily, if not for the messenger's kindness in taking her in, she would have been snatched away by the stray beasts. How could she be so vicious? She was clearly a complete female, but still disguised herself as a half-orc female to sneak into the tribe. She did not have good intentions from the start. I was wondering why she kept going to Sandy's house, so she went there to sow discord. Luckily Sandy did not fall for it or else. Gu Mingming listened to everyone's comments and did not give any response. Hate Allie? Far from it. They just had different standpoints. She could only blame herself for being too weak for not being able to protect her children, and even sacrificing herself. She had almost caused Elvis and Leah to suffer the backlash of the mating contract. Moreover, he was already dead, so whatever grievances he had should be in the past. Gu Mingming felt that it was not worth fighting with a dead person, because no matter how much you hated her, you did not have the ability to snatch her back from the hands of the King of Hell and kill her again. The topic was a little off topic, and the females were in a heated discussion. There were 19 females here. It was comparable to an agricultural wholesale market. Gu Mingming did not have the intention to pull them back to the main topic of discussion and let them scold Ellie with righteous indignation. It wasn't until a cheer came from the male digging the well that the discussion of the females came to an abrupt end. Gu Mingming stood up and walked to the edge of the well. She looked down and smiled. Chapter 732. Without bricks, Gu Mengmeng brought her men to fetch 2 large stone slabs. She then instructed Elvis and Leah to demonstrate how to cut the stone slabs into evenly sized stones before placing them at the mouth of the well. Leah had seen a well in solder before, so he more or less knew what to do next, so Gu Mengmeng did not have to worry. Once everything was settled, the lack of water in Saint Nazaire would no longer exist. The entire tribe's atmosphere became livelier with the successful excavation of this well. As the days passed, the fact that Saint Nazaire did not lack water gradually became the eye of a storm. Jealousy spread endlessly, from stealing water on a small scale to robbing in broad daylight without any scruples. Yes, Saint Nazaire had Elvis and Leah to hold the fort, and even Oriton and Ian were ruthless characters who could easily kill one another. But in order to prevent their own females from being wronged, so what if they had to sacrifice their lives? Not a single blade of grass grew by the side of a well, and the thick stench of blood permeated the ground. If not for the fact that Gu Mengmeng had tasted blood when she drank the water, she would never have known what kind of conflict had arisen from a water well that was supposed to be a blessing. When Gu Mengmeng brought Elvis and Leah to the side of the well, she did not know which tribe was fighting with Oriton. The other party was clearly not Oriton's match, and was already being stepped on by Oriton. If this claw were to land again, the other party's intestines would be pierced through. Stop. Gu Mengmeng frowned and walked over. Seeing the person, Oriton stopped what he was doing and walked to Gu Mengmeng's side, dutifully playing the role of a bodyguard. That person who was beaten to the ground squinted his eyes, as if he could not see clearly. After staring for a long time, he suddenly froze, then flipped over and prostrated on the ground, his entire being filled with fear and trepidation. Gu Mengmeng was a little surprised. Just now, when he was almost beaten to death by Oriton, he still had an unyielding look. Why did his face change the moment he appeared? Could it be that Snake's domineering aura was revealed again? Great messenger. I just wanted to find some water for my female to drink. I deserve to die for offending the great messenger. Please don't vent your anger on Shaka, just punish me. I beg you. Gu Mengmeng chuckled, feeling helpless. The only thing that could make these unyielding males in the beast world cower for a second was their females. Gu Mengmeng walked to the well and sat down. She lowered her head and looked into the well. The water level did not seem to decrease at all. This well was obviously connected to an underground water vein. The water could be said to be endless, so there was no need to risk his life to guard it. It was meaningless. However, the location of the well was within Saint Nazaire. If anyone were to casually enter to collect water, it would affect the sovereignty of the territory. Saint Nazaire was won back by Elvis and Leah after risking their lives. Even if she could not expand the territory, there was no reason for her to give it away to others. Thinking about this, Gu Mengmeng lowered her head to look at the male who was still crawling on the ground and asked, "Is there a witch doctor in your tribe?" The male shuddered, thinking that perhaps this was the time for divine punishment. It didn't matter, as long as Shako wasn't implicated. Gritting his teeth, he nodded and replied, "Reporting to Lord Emissary, our tribe has a witch doctor." Chapter 733. The male lifted his head, looking at Gu Mengmeng in shock and confusion, asking if there was a witch doctor. Not to sacrifice him to the heavens, but to throw the game? Gu Mengmeng's expression was indifferent as she continued. "The witch doctor is a member of the clergy, and is considered my subordinate. I allowed them to use my name to benefit the various tribes. But other than the witch doctor, anyone who entered Saint Nazaire without permission would be treated as an intruder and be exiled and slaughtered. Furthermore, the tribe's right to collect water would be permanently revoked. Do you hear me?" Yes, I heard you clearly." The male kowtowed to Gu Mengmeng fiercely twice, then ran back with a body full of injuries. Gu Mengmeng sighed and looked at Leah and Elvis. She said helplessly, "Why did you make such a good well look like a murder scene?" Elvis frowned and pursed his lips. After deliberating for a long while, he slowly said, "What if you don't have enough water to drink after giving them?" Gu Mengmeng chuckled and asked, "Is it because of this that you guys risked your lives to get water?" Elvis nodded, This well concerns the lives of all the females in the tribe. The males must protect it with their lives. Gu Mingming leaned into Elvis's arms and asked, "Why didn't you tell me that someone came to snatch it?" Elvis sighed softly and said, "I don't want to annoy you over such a small matter." Gu Mingming smiled and asked, "Yeah, then if I don't know, are you guys planning to keep killing everyone who comes here for water?" Elvis nodded solemnly and sincerely. Gu Mingming was speechless. "Leah, why didn't you stop him?" Leah shrugged. "Why should I stop him? If they had come to beg me nicely, I might have been able to accommodate them. But since they want to steal and rob, we naturally can't let them off." Gu Mingming was also helpless. It seemed like there was no such rule in the beast world, where begging for help did not exist. Whatever they fancied, they would snatch it openly. Waving his hand, he said, "Forget it. Inform the nearby tribes to send witch doctors to Saint Nazir to discuss if they need water. If there are any more intruders, they will be dealt with in contempt of the divine authority." "Yes, sir," Oriton answered and then left. He was the protector of the emissary, so it was natural for him to arrange such matters as conveying orders. Gu Mingming clicked her tongue and said, "The ground is full of blood. It looks quite horrifying." Elvis carried Gu Mingming back into his arms and kissed her little face, saying, "I'll get someone to bring fresh soil from somewhere else to plow the ground." Gu Mingming nodded and followed Elvis and Leah back into the cave. The witch doctor was handed over to Leah to handle. Gu Mingming was happy to have some free time, as she accompanied her 3 sons to sunbathe on a huge rock. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. The news of the Eye of Life in the Saint Nazir tribe, and the messenger of the beast deity, allowing the witch doctors of each tribe to collect water, spread like wildfire in the beast world. To Gu Mingming, it was just a small matter that was not worth mentioning, but it raised her reputation to another level in the beast world, to the extent that it was like a fairy descending to the mortal world one day. When Leah was organizing the witch doctors who queued up to fetch water from the well, a head suddenly popped out from the well. Chapter 734. Lee's sharp claws were already swinging towards that head, not to slice off his head, but to pull him out from the well. Blood could not be seen here. What would Mingming drink if the water source was polluted? But that head was very cautious. Once it saw Leah approaching, it immediately shrunk back. Then there was the sound of water splashing, followed by the sound of water splashing. Leah frowned, feeling impatient. If he drowned to death in the well, the water in the well would all be polluted. Stepping forward, Leah leaned over the mouth of the well and looked down. A stream of water shot out from the bottom of the well. As fast as lightning, Leah dodged in a panic, but his face was still scratched by the water. A drop of blood dripped down from the side of his face. Leah frowned, his eyes filled with murderous intent. Mingming had praised this face many times, but it was actually injured by him. Looking again, when Leah looked at the mouth of the well, it was as if he was looking at a dead person. "I want to see the messenger of the beast deity." A voice came from the bottom of the well, echoing through the emptiness caused by the sound amplification effect of the walls of the well. "Who are you?" Leah asked in a low voice. His tone was so calm that it seemed nonchalant, but the other witch doctors standing beside him were drenched in cold sweat, their hearts beating like drums, and they were terrified. The person in the well did not speak again. Only the sound of water splashing could be heard. His meaning was obvious. If the messenger of the beast deity did not come, he would monopolize this well, and no one could hope to get a drop of water from here. The well was very important, but Gu Mingming was more important. Leah would definitely not allow this aggressive person of unknown origin to get close to Gu Mingming. So this matter was suppressed by Leah. The witch doctors from the various tribes did not manage to get any water, but did not dare to say anything, waiting for Leah to think of a way to get that fellow out of the water. But how long could he hide it? Gu Mingming found it strange that the water supply at home was starting to run out. By right, the well was located on the underground water vein, so it should not have dried up. Why was there no water at home? When she brought the children to Sandy's house to play, she realized that there was no water at home too. Sandy's mouth was so dry that it felt like it was going to explode, and he lay there weakly, not wanting to move. Seeing that Gu Mingming had arrived, he forced himself to sit up. You don't have water in your house either? Sandy nodded and said, Colin went to the well 2 days ago, and when he came back, he didn't look too good. I asked what was going on, but he didn't tell me, only saying that there was no water for the time being. Gu Mingming, do you know what happened to the well? Did you run out of water? Gu Mingming shook her head and said, I don't know what's going on either, but Leah and Elvis are behaving strangely. The moment I mentioned the well, they immediately changed the topic, and it was obvious that they were intentionally stopping me from going over. Sandy tugged at Gu Mingming's arm and asked, Why don't we dig another one? I'm so thirsty. Gu Mingming patted Sandy's little hand and said, Why don't you accompany me to the well to see what's going on? If there's really no water, we'll dig another one. Upon hearing that there was water to drink, Sandy's eyes immediately lit up. Without a second word, she stood up and pulled Gu Mingming towards the well. Then Gu Mingming was a little shocked. Who the hell had dug up Saint Nazaire like a whack-a-mole game area? Sandy was also very surprised. She looked at Gu Mingming, and both of them were speechless. Chapter 735. Gu Mingming let go of Sandy's hand and told her to stay where she was and not move. Sandy nodded obediently and stretched her neck to look at Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming walked to the side of the well and waited before patting the huge rock. If it was in the past, she would definitely give up. But now, with one slap, the huge rock flew far away and landed on the ground with a thud, creating a cloud of dust. Gu Mingming stuck her head into the well, and before she could see anything clearly, a stream of water shot out. Thanks to Snake, Gu Mingming's body reacted faster than her eyes, and she dodged it with a slight tilt to the side. And in that brief glimpse, the person at the bottom of the well also saw Gu Mingming's face. After a moment of silence, a cautious and probing voice came from the bottom of the well. Are you the messenger of the beast deity? There was someone. Gu Mingming's first reaction was that someone had fallen into the well. Was this a scene from the Qing dynasty? Throwing someone into the well and pinning him down with a rock? Destroying the corpse and erasing the evidence? But that was not right either. Whether it was Saint Nazaire or the surrounding tribes, who did not treat this well as their lifeblood. There were so many ways to kill someone who would destroy this well, just for one person. Who are you? Gu Mingming did not answer but asked back. Slowly, a head rose from the bottom of the well. His bright and radiant eyes carried a tinge of unfamiliarity and caution as he sized Gu Mingming up from the side of the well. After a long while he spoke again. May I ask, are you the messenger of the beast deity? Gu Mingming had seen countless handsome men ever since she came to the beast world. Not mentioning the others, just the 3 men with the mark on her body were definitely the most handsome men. But even so, when she saw that pair of eyes, Gu Mingming was still dazed. It had nothing to do with lust or any other factors. Just that, it was as if through that pair of eyes, one could see the entire galaxy flowing in front of them. It was dazzling and eye-catching, but without a trace of filth. It was so clean that one could not help but want to protect it, not wanting any speck of dust to taint its purity. Gu Mingming was willing to believe that the owner of such a pair of eyes was not a bad person. Gu Mingming could not help but soften her voice by an octave, as if she was coaxing her son. Yes, I'm the messenger of the beast deity Gu Mingming. What about you? Who are you and why are you in the well? The owner of the eyes slowly stretched out his hands and leaned against the wall of the well. His little head poked out of the well. He pursed his lips and said, I am Prince Fei Rui of the mermaid race. Fei Rui's face was the type that made people want to protect him. It was not an exaggeration to say that Fei Rui could stimulate Gu Mingming's maternal love more than the 4 steamed buns. Her eyes were like cold stars, her nose was round and straight, and her lips were a light pink. She pursed her lips lightly like a child who had been wronged. Her face was round and had a baby face feel to it. There were no edges or corners on her face. Her whole person was round and cute. Mermaids, Gu Mingming laughed softly and asked, So you don't have legs and can't walk on land? Fei Rui was stunned and shook his head. I'm a second-rank beast man. I can take human form. However, the emissary said that to enter without permission is to defy the authority of the gods. So I didn't dare to come out. Chapter 736. Fei Rui reached out his little hand timidly. He was clearly afraid, but he still chose to believe in Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming's heart melted from his cuteness. She grabbed Fei Rui's hand and pulled him out of the well. Actually, she didn't need much strength, because Fei Rui could have come out himself. He just needed permission. Thank you. Fei Rui was extremely obedient. When he smiled, he showed his canine teeth, just like the neighbor's younger brother. His hand was cold. This feeling was very similar to Snake's. Gu Mingming's eyes dimmed. She knew that Snake was living well now, but she couldn't suppress that longing. Gu Mingming brought Fei Rui back to her cave. Sandy was worried about Gu Mingming being alone with this strange male, so she followed them back. Fei Rui seemed to be very curious about everything. Along the way, he kept looking around, wanting to ask and touch everything, but he could not bear to let go of that first touch of warmth. Just like that, he followed Gu Mingming into the cave and sat obediently at the side with both hands on his knees. His starry eyes stared at Gu Mingming without blinking, as if he was a good student who was listening to a teacher's lecture. Why were you in the well? Gu Mingming was like a teacher who favored good students. Her tone of voice was extremely gentle. Fei Rui pursed his lips and said bashfully, I wanted to use that stream but it dried up, so I could only swim here from the underground river. I saw that strange exit and came up. Then, I was attacked. After I retaliated, that strange exit was sealed shut. Fei Rui sounded more and more aggrieved. Gu Mingming wanted to hug him and buy him a cotton candy to comfort his wounded heart. So you came to find me, right? Gu Mingming asked again. Fei Rui nodded. Under Gu Mingming's expectant and encouraging gaze, he said, I know where the kiss of the ocean is. Can I exchange wishes? Kiss of the ocean? Gu Mingming's heart skipped a beat. She was actually feeling very conflicted. On one hand, she wanted to use the 5 treasures to exchange for Qi Xian. On the other hand, she felt that it was a very dangerous thing to give the 5 treasures to Cole. Subconsciously, she wished that she could never find them. But now that it had delivered itself to his doorstep, perhaps this was the will of the heavens. Gu Mingming calmed herself down and said, Yeah, of course you can. Tell me your wish. Fei Rui intertwined his fingers and took a few deep breaths. Then, he raised his head and looked at Gu Mingming with determination. Can you make me one of your partners? Puff, Gu Mingming almost choked on her own saliva. He looked at Fei Rui, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. You like me? Fei Rui lowered his head and thought for a moment before shaking his head. I don't know what it means to like someone, but I need your strength to protect my sister. Before Gu Mingming could ask further, 2 shadows had already closed in. Gu Mingming landed on a broad chest. Looking up, she met a pair of blue eyes. If you want to mate with Xiao Meng, you need to challenge her partner. Do you want to challenge Leah or me? Elvis's expression was cold, neither angry nor warm, but it was filled with a sinister sharpness that made one's back break out in cold sweat. Chapter 737. Gu Mingming stood up and stood in front of Fei Rui. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and looked at Elvis and Leah. No matter how she looked at it, it felt like she was being bullied in school. It was like a gangster going to a junior high school to extort a student. Anyone with a sense of justice would not stand by and do nothing. You two are a level 5 beast and a peak level 3 beast. Is there any meaning in bullying a level 2 beast? Fei Rui is a mermaid. When he's out of the water, he's not even as powerful as a level 1 beast on land. Even if you two win, do you feel any sense of accomplishment? Not only did Gu Mingming's protection fail to save Fei Rui, it even caused Elvis and Lee's faces to darken. Elvis placed his large hand on Lee's shoulder and pulled him behind him. He then stood up and walked towards Gu Mingming with a dark expression. You like him? Gu Mingming sighed. Fei Rui is still a child. Elvis scooped Gu Mingming into his arms and carried her with one arm. Then he pointed at Fei Rui and said, second-level beast, an adult not a child. Here it comes again. In Elvis's eyes, all the males in the world seemed to have an affair with Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming said helplessly, "He came to me to present a treasure. He wants the reward for saving his sister." Elvis's face was still black as he said, "Yeah, the way to save his sister is to mate with you." Gu Mingming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He has been living in the ocean all year round and has never seen the world. He doesn't know that there are thousands of ways to save people. If his motive is just to save his sister, we can actually provide him with other solutions, right? Elvis did not back down and said, "But he has already requested to mate with you, so either Leah or I have to accept the challenge." Gu Mingming face-bombed, feeling rather helpless. Looking at Fei Rui's confused and guarded expression, Gu Mingming felt like she was a vicious stepmother who was abusing Cinderella. As for Elvis and Leah, they were probably Cinderella's elder and second elder sisters. Gu Mingming looked helplessly at Elvis and Leah, who were as cold as ice, and said, "We still have to inspect the goods first, right? What if he couldn't take out the kiss of the ocean? Then there's no need to mention the reward, right?" Elvis did not speak, but his heavy breathing showed that he was angry, very angry, very angry. Leah wagged his tail and placed an arm on Elvis's shoulder. He looked at Gu Mingming with a slightly aggrieved expression and said, "You just want to protect him, right?" Gu Mingming was rendered speechless by Li's words. She stammered and said, "Look, Fei Rui left his hometown to deliver news to us. We can't possibly bully him because he's a foreigner, right? How unfriendly, isn't it?" Leah held Gu Mingming's hand and gently touched his own face. He became even more aggrieved and said, "But he almost ruined my face the moment he came. If I was disfigured and scarred, you would not like me anymore. I can't take this lying down. Are you not going to stand up for me?" Gu Mingming's brain froze for a few seconds, feeling as if she had walked into the wrong theater. Pardon me for asking, this is the carefree beast world, right? It can't be a certain legend or a certain branch of lust, right? Seeing Li's "I feel so wronged" expression, Gu Mingming was stunned for a long time before she said, "So the person who attacked Fei Rui and blocked the well with a rock was you?" Chapter 738. "Sorry, I apologize." A tiny voice rang out softly from the corner. Li's face froze. He turned to look at the sincere yet timid Fei Rui. Why did he feel like he had been made a fool of? If he were to apologize like that, it would make his actions seem especially unreasonable. Leah clenched his teeth and tossed out a sentence. "Green tea bitch." Gu Mingming laughed. She recalled how she had taught Leah and Elvis about the basic concepts of green tea bitches and white lotus flowers in the past. She felt much better. She started to understand why when girls scolded others as green tea bitches, their boyfriends would look at her with a "you are being unreasonable" expression. Actually, she really did not have any improper thoughts towards a little puppy like Fei Rui. Gu Mingming knew that she could not bring herself to do something like harming the flower of her country. Gu Mingming hugged Li's face and kissed him. She smiled. "You look very handsome when you are jealous, but I prefer you when you are full of confidence." Leah glanced sideways at Fei Rui. His lips curled up slightly. He did not say a word, but Gu Mingming could clearly see the flaunting and provocation on his face. That expression had already vividly displayed his classic line of "Mengming's heart is always on our side." Leah used to treat Snake like that too, but at least Snake was a powerful adult male. Treating Fei Rui like that seemed like making a mountain out of a molehill. But to be treasured and nervous by her own male, yeah, this feeling was actually not bad. How could Leah allow Gu Mingming to leave after a perfunctory kiss in front of his love rival? Cupping the back of her head with one hand, he brought her lips back to his mouth and kissed her deeply. He kissed her until Gu Mingming lost all her energy and lay limp as if she had no bones. Only then did he release her reluctantly. He gently lifted her little chin, and his long and blurry eyes were filled with satisfaction. The corners of his lips curled into a seductive smile as he said, "Indulging my jealousy? How should I repay you? Why don't you devote your life to me?" Gu Mingming realized that she was becoming more and more sensitive in terms of relationships. A soul that had been lonely for thousands of years yearned for gentleness. And because of this, she could not control herself in the face of Lee's teasing. She pretended to slap Leah and raised her head. "You've been mine since a long time ago. The mark is on my ear. You want to repay me with something that belongs to me? Only you can think of that." Leah placed one arm on Elvis's shoulder, and the other gently caressed the fox mark on Gu Mingming's left ear. A tinge of happiness shone in his eyes. Chuckling, Leah licked his lower lip with the tip of his tongue, and looked at Gu Mingming covetously. "Gu Mingming, say that again." Say what?" Gu Mingming's face was so red that she could not even breathe evenly. She was in Elvis's arms, but she was flirting with Leah in public. What the hell was going on? "It's so embarrassing, but my heart is beating really fast. Say I'm yours." Lee's lips inched closer, almost touching the tip of her nose. Gu Mingming shrunk into Elvis's arms shyly. She blushed and said softly, You're mine." Leah pecked Gu Mingming's lips lightly. Then, he moved his lips to Gu Mingming's left ear. His warm breath landed on her ear, and he whispered in a hoarse voice. Word by word, he landed on Gu Mingming's heart. "These are the most touching words of love that I've ever heard. I'm yours, you can take, whatever you want. Aside from the topic." Chapter 739. Gu Mingming felt as though her heart was about to jump out of her chest. She quickly pushed Leah away, and buried her blushing face into Elvis's chest, not saying a word. But Leah was smiling brightly. He poked Gu Mingming's little head from behind and said, "All right, come out quickly. I won't tease you anymore. Elvis will kill me if I hold it in for too long." The more Leah poked her, the more Gu Mingming tried to hide. She really felt a little embarrassed. It would have been fine if it was just Sandy, but that Fei Rui was also there. He was still a child. Was it really all right to flirt in front of a child? Elvis looked at the interaction between Leah and Gu Mingming, and only smiled gently and helplessly. Luckily, compared to Fei Rui, that little white flower of unknown origins, Gu Mingming clearly preferred Leah, that flirtatious B***tch. It seemed like there would not be another family member at home. This made Elvis heave a sigh of relief. He then looked at Fei Rui, who did not seem to be the least bit jealous of Gu Mingming and Lee's flirting. He just stared blankly at them, as though the doors to a new world had been opened. That pair of eyes, they were really so clean that they did not seem like something that should exist in this world. Elvis raised his free hand and placed it on Lee's shoulder. Enough is enough. Leah was also observing Fei Rui. He realized that although he had requested to mate with Gu Mingming, he did not seem to know much about it. Or rather, he did not have any intentions towards Gu Mingming. After testing him out, he exchanged glances with Elvis. They both placed Fei Rui on the second-level danger list that needed to be observed, but did not require any special precautions. And the ones who remained on the first-level danger list were still Sandy and the four little ones. As for the people on the second-level danger list, apart from the first-level danger list, everyone else was on the second-level danger list. Leah made a big pot of boiled meat slices. The ingredients were naturally provided by Oriton, who always appeared at mealtimes. As Sandy was a foodie, she completely blocked out Lee's and Elvis's "Why aren't you leaving" gaze when she saw the big pot of food. She held Gu Mingming's little hand and sat beside her, eating contentedly. It was Fei Rui's first time seeing a land beast man eating. He felt it was novel, but he wasn't surprised. Looking at them eating in full swing, he also had an urge to try. Gu Mingming pulled his hand that was about to reach into the pot. She shook her head and said, "This is very hot. You will get hurt if you hold it with your hands." "Oh." Fei Rui lowered his head like a child who had done something wrong. He looked at the fragrant meat in the pot and swallowed his saliva, looking a little pitiful. Gu Mingming used a pair of chopsticks to pick up a few pieces of meat, then placed them in clear water to rinse off the chili. She passed the chopsticks and bowl to Fei Rui with a smile. "Here, this is for you." Fei Rui's eyes lit up. His radiant smile made Gu Mingming feel as though she was in the galaxy. Unknowingly, she was infected by him and returned the same smile. But this interaction made Lee's vinegar jar overturn. Holding Gu Mengmeng's little face, Leah kissed her and swallowed the piece of meat in her mouth that had yet to be swallowed. Chapter 740. After lunch, Oriton was in charge of cleaning the kitchen waste and washing the pots. Sandy could not stand Leah and Elvis's dark faces and secretly chasing them away, so they all left. Then Fei Rui sat in a corner, facing Gu Mengmeng, who was all smiles, and Elvis and Leah, who were standing on his left and right. It felt like a three-division joint hearing. Gu Mengmeng had always been patient with beautiful children, so she smiled and said, "All right, now let's talk about serious matters. What happened to your sister? Why do you need me to rescue her?" At the mention of his sister, Fei Rui's face was filled with worry. He pursed his lips and said, "My sister is the prettiest little princess in the mermaid tribe. She is smart and kind. But because of this, she incurred the jealousy of Dora. Dora stole the giant fish tribe's treasure and framed my sister. So the leader of the giant fish tribe, Carter, kidnapped my sister." Gu Mengmeng frowned and sighed. A woman's jealousy could sometimes be very crazy and unreasonable. "Then what do you want me to do? If it's in the sea, even I have limited battle powers. Elvis may be a 5th-level beast, but he can't use his full power underwater." Gu Mengmeng did not want to stand by and watch, but just wanted to lay out the reality of the situation. If the person who had the power of a beast king was Snake instead of herself, she could easily agree to Fei Rui's request. As long as Snake made a trip to the deep sea, the giant fish tribe would obediently hand over the person without needing to do anything. But although she had Snake's power, she was after all not a snake. Breathing and battling underwater were extremely limited to her. She could kill people in a frenzy, but saving people, Gu Mengmeng knew that she did not have the ability to do so. She did not want to give Fei Rui false hope and then shatter it, so the best way was to tell him the truth. Fei Rui shook his head and said, "Although I really want to save my sister, I will not risk the great messenger's life. You are the hope of the entire beast world. Nothing must happen to you." This sentence pleased Elvis and Leah. Their hostility towards him had lessened, and even the temperature in the cave seemed to have risen a lot. Then, Gu Mengmeng guided Fei Rui to continue. Fei Rui clenched his fists tightly and placed them on his knees. He raised his head, and his eyes that were as bright as the stars were filled with determination. "So, Lord Messenger, please accept me as your partner. In this way, I will become the link between you and the sea tribes. At that time, the giant fish clan will definitely return my sister to me." Gu Mengmeng understood what he was thinking. The kiss of the ocean was the dowry for his younger sister, who was willing to marry him. Gu Mengmeng smiled and shook her head. She reached out to stroke Fei Rui's little head. "So are you planning to use my name to bully others?" Fei Rui was startled, and a guilty blush appeared on his face. He bit his lower lip and nodded with difficulty. Chapter 741. Gu Mengmeng tapped her fingers rhythmically on Elvis's arm. This was a sign that she was in deep thought. Actually, Elvis and Leah had countless methods to settle such a small matter. Although there might be some unexpected situations in the ocean, Elvis and Leah were too good at forcing someone to hand over something. Elvis and Leah were too good at it. However, they didn't say much. They were willing to wait for the little woman to come up with an unreliable or very roundabout method. Then they would let her try it. Even if she stabbed the sky down, the two of them would hold it up for her. Being able to clean up the mess for his female was the value of a male's existence. He really missed the times when she used her power to bully others. In that case, he was starting to miss Nina. Gu Mengmeng's tapping fingers suddenly stopped. Her lips curled into a sly smile. "Since it's so troublesome to find a specific fish in the ocean, why don't we let this fish come to us on its own?" Fei Rui tilted his head, his bright eyes filled with confusion. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. "The female Dora of the mermaid tribe has found the treasure that the messenger of the beast deity needs. As long as you bring it to me, I can fulfill a wish." Leah and Elvis exchanged a smile. How could their little female be so adorable when she was lying to others? Her large eyes were filled with a sly smile. It was mischievous but very seductive. Fei Rui didn't understand Gu Mingming's plan. He shook his head. Dora did steal the treasure of the giant fish tribe, but it wasn't the kiss of the ocean. Gu Mingming was tickled by Fei Rui's kindness and innocence. She shook her head in exasperation. You are indeed still a baby. The mutual deceit of the adult world doesn't suit you. Let me do this kind of trickery. You just wait for Dora to bring the treasure back. Then go and exchange it for your sister. Fei Rui didn't understand Gu Mingming's plan, but he felt that these three people before him had a certain kind of power. Her words didn't need any other evidence to convince him. Gu Mingming went through this plan a few more times in her mind. She thought of a few ways to complement each other. Then, she stretched lazily and looked at Fei Rui. Are you alright leaving the water for a long time? Fei Rui blinked his bright eyes and nodded. Actually, I still feel very uncomfortable, Gu Mingming said. Then why don't you go soak in the well first? Fei Rui's eyes lit up as he asked with anticipation. Can I? Leah said no. Gu Mingming. Leah gave Gu Mingming a reproachful look, and she immediately shut her mouth. What a joke. If her family's vinegar jar were to be overturned, hee, Fei Rui would be the one to make a dish of fish with vinegar sauce. Leah said, the well is the drinking water source for all of us in the tribe. If you soak in it, do you want everyone in the tribe to drink your bathwater? You should return to the sea and wait for news. When that Dora comes looking for us, we will inform you. Fei Rui's eyes dimmed again. He looked like a bullied child as he bit his lower lip and said, I'm not going into the well. It's fine even if I don't soak in the water. I'll wait for you to return to the sea with me. Chapter 742. Fei Rui was stunned for a moment before shaking his head. No way, you must follow me back to the ocean. Leah sneered and his gaze turned sharp. He emphasized each word. No way. Must. Who do you think you are? Fei Rui was frightened by Li's aura. He shrunk his neck and avoided Li's gaze. He only looked at Gu Mingming. I know where the kiss of the ocean is, but I can't take it out. The great messenger must go there personally. Oh. Leah clearly did not believe him. Once in the water, he and Elvis would be in a useless state. They had experienced the feeling of helplessness in the Snake King Valley once, and they did not want to experience it again. Fei Rui panicked. He suddenly realized that his ability to organize his words was very problematic. The more he tried to explain, the more he could not speak clearly. In the end, he almost bit his own tongue, but still could not come up with a clear explanation. Gu Mingming looked at Fei Rui, who was as anxious as a child who could not find his homework. She took the initiative to stroke his head and smiled. Don't worry, don't panic. Speak slowly. Strangely, Gu Mingming had the ability to calm people down. Fei Rui looked at Gu Mingming's clear eyes and nodded slowly. He slowly calmed his chaotic emotions due to Li's aura. He took 2 deep breaths before speaking. The kiss of the ocean is a pearl. It is in the forbidden abyss of the mermaid tribe, and is protected by an old muscle spirit. The only person who made him willingly hand over the kiss of the ocean was the previous messenger of the beast deity. Although I don't know why the previous messenger returned the kiss of the ocean, but for the past 1,000 years, so many people have set their sights on the kiss of the ocean. But not a single person could enter the forbidden abyss. Gu Mingming was a little confused. An old muscle spirit, another monster that had lived for over 1,000 years? The beast king of the ocean? Didn't Snake say that he was the only beast king in the beast world? What was wrong with this fellow? Gu Mingming thought about it, and shifted the focus to a more normal topic. The forbidden abyss? Fei Rui nodded. I heard from the elders that it was not a forbidden area in the past. It only became a forbidden area after the previous messenger placed the kiss of the ocean back. The previous messenger cast a spell there, and no one can enter. Wasn't the previous messenger Snake sometimes amusing, and sometimes cold-blooded split mother? He could even cast spells. Gu Mingming did not really believe it. This was because Snake's inherited memories also contained his father's memories. From the time his father interacted with Wang Xiaoxin, she was just a psychologist who was proficient in some things from the Book of Changes. Casting spells and setting up arrays were so fantastical that they could only exist in investiture of the gods. She didn't have such skills. Gu Mingming rubbed her chin thinking. But Elvis pinched her little face, his blue eyes staring straight at Gu Mingming. You're not allowed to go. But, no buts. In the sea, Leia and I can't protect you. It's too dangerous, you can't go, Elvis insisted. Gu Mingming thought for a while and suddenly laughed. You don't have to worry about my safety if I bring along a bodyguard who is good at fighting in the water. Elvis frowned and asked, who? Chapter 743. Elvis frowned and thought for a long time. He filtered through all the people around Gu Mingming, but could not think of anyone who matched Gu Mingming's 2 points and was reliable. But Leah was crafty and smiled knowingly. You mean Wabi? Gu Mingming nodded. Bingo, Leah thought about it and nodded. If it's him, his battle power is indeed guaranteed. After all, he was a snake trained by Snake for over 800 years. He would be able to crush anyone he placed him in. But he treats you as his love rival? Could it be? Leah looked at Elvis suggestively as he spoke. The fur on Elvis's tail stood on end. He gritted his teeth. It's not me. Leah shrugged. It's not me either. Gu Mingming covered her mouth and laughed. It's Snake. Lee's eyes sparkled as he asked. He had an affair with Snake? Gu Mingming shook her head. Failed. Elvis looked at the mark on the back of Gu Mingming's neck and suddenly felt that Snake was very pitiful. Clearing his throat, he said, if it's him, it's indeed not a problem to ensure your safety. But will he be willing to accompany you? Gu Mingming stretched out her hand and gently caressed the back of her neck. Her expression was indifferent. If it's a fake emperor's edict, he won't reject it. Elvis paused and said, you want to tell him that Snake asked him to accompany you? Gu Mingming nodded. Leah kissed Gu Mingming's little face. You are still so gentle. There are thousands of ways to make him listen to you, but you chose the one that gives him a sliver of hope. Gu Mingming chuckled. I just don't like how he looks like Snake's widow, so I wanted to make fun of him. Leah did not force Gu Mingming to admit it. He just pinched her little nose. Snake will probably be overjoyed if he hears this. He must think that you are jealous. Thinking back to how Snake wooed her in the modern world with the beast deity, Gu Mingming suddenly felt much more relaxed. He probably doesn't have time to be happy right now. I'll definitely spare no effort to make things difficult for him. Who told him to make the decision to die on his own? He made me sad for so long. Punishing him is a must. Leah rubbed Gu Mingming's little head and did not continue the topic of Snake. He and Elvis were very clear that even if Mingming's condition was much better now, her guilt towards Snake was still buried in the deepest part of her heart, and it would still hurt when touched. If we want Wabi to come with us, we might have to move as soon as possible. After the dry season, it will be the rainy season. At that time, we will have to start stockpiling food for the winter, and Wabi will also have to prepare for hibernation. We don't have much time. We can't drag this out for too long. Elvis was more than willing to let Gu Mingming throw herself into something, so that she would not have time to let her imagination run wild. Whether it was Snake, Qixian or Cole, it would be best if she could push all these things to the back of her mind. He didn't allow her to go because he was worried about her safety. Now that there was a solution, he naturally wouldn't stop her. Gu Mingming nodded with a bitter smile. Looks like we have to entrust our sons to Sandy again. If these 3 fellows stay at Sandy's place all the time, I wonder if it will affect their marriage. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.